After Jelena Ostapenko lost to Taylor Townsend, the two exchanging sharp words, Townsend saying Ostapenko accusing her of having no class and no education.
A major controversy erupted at the U.S. Open tennis tournament that has shocked the entire tennis community. The incident involved Latvian player Jelena Ostapenko and American player Taylor Townsend, and it has sparked intense discussions about sportsmanship, respect, and accountability in professional tennis. The drama began after Ostapenko lost her match against Townsend in straight sets. Instead of accepting her defeat gracefully, Ostapenko became extremely upset with her opponent over a matter of tennis etiquette. The situation escalated to the point where several high-profile players and commentators have publicly criticized Ostapenko's behavior, with some suggesting this incident could seriously damage her career and reputation. The entire confrontation started over something that might seem small to casual tennis fans, but it touches on an important aspect of tennis culture called etiquette. In tennis, when a player hits a shot that barely touches the net cord and still goes over for a winner, it's considered good manners to raise your hand and acknowledge that it was a lucky shot. This gesture shows respect for your opponent and recognition that you benefited from good fortune rather than pure skill. During a crucial point in their match, Taylor Townsend hit exactly this type of shot, a net cord winner that helped her gain an advantage. However, she didn't raise her hand to apologize for the lucky bounce. This is where things went wrong. While some players might not notice or care about this small breach of etiquette, Ostapenko became furious about it. After losing the match with scores of 7-5, 6-1, which wasn't even a close contest, Ostapenko was clearly frustrated and embarrassed. Instead of shaking hands politely and moving on like professional athletes are expected to do, she decided to confront Townsend about the incident. Eras captured everything as Ostapenko essentially tried to lecture Townsend about proper behavior and education. The controversial comments. What made this situation particularly explosive were the specific words Ostapenko used. She told Townsend that she had no class and no education. This type of language is always problematic in professional sports, but it becomes especially sensitive when directed at a black athlete in a sport that has historically been dominated by white players. Ostapenko was quoted as saying, "There are some rules in tennis which most of the players follow, and it was the first time ever that this happened to me on tour." She seemed genuinely shocked that a player wouldn't apologize for a lucky net cord shot, even though this kind of thing happens regularly in professional tennis. The situation became even more uncomfortable because of the racial dynamics involved. When you consider Taylor Townsend's position as a black athlete in tennis, comments about lacking education and class carry additional weight and historical context that cannot be ignored. Major players speak out. The tennis community's reaction was swift and largely critical of Ostapenko's behavior. One of the most significant responses came from Naomi Osaka, a player who typically stays out of controversies and drama. Osaka didn't hold back in her criticism, stating that telling a black tennis player they lack education in a predominantly white sport was one of the worst things you can say. But Osaka went even further, suggesting that this wasn't even the most outrageous thing Ostapenko had ever said. This comment raised questions about other incidents involving Ostapenko that might not have received as much public attention. It painted a picture of someone with a pattern of inappropriate behavior rather than a single moment of poor judgment. Andy Roddick, the former world #1 and U.S. Open champion, also weighed in heavily on his podcast. Roddick, who had his own moments of frustration during his playing career, was particularly harsh in his criticism. He compared Ostapenko lecturing someone about behavior on a tennis court to him lecturing someone about hair loss, calling it the height of hypocrisy. Roddick also made pointed comments about Ostapenko's general demeanor, suggesting she needed to learn how to look people in the eye when shaking hands. Coming from someone who understood the pressures of professional tennis, this criticism carried extra weight. A pattern of behavior. What made this incident even more damaging for Ostapenko was that it wasn't an isolated event. Tennis fans and commentators quickly pointed out that she has a history of similar outbursts and confrontations. At the 2024 Australian Open warm-up events, she had a major argument with a chair umpire. At Wimbledon, she was involved in a nasty dispute with another player where they were calling each other liars and making personal attacks. This pattern of behavior is what really concerned people in the tennis community. If this had been a one-time incident where emotions got the better of her, people might have been more forgiving. But when multiple incidents stack up over time, it suggests a deeper problem with anger management and professional conduct. Aryna Sabalenka, who is usually very diplomatic in her public statements, even made some harsh comments about Ostapenko after this incident. Sabalenka revealed that she had tried to talk to Ostapenko after the match, but couldn't get through to her. More significantly, she suggested that Ostapenko might have personal problems unrelated to tennis that were making her unstable. When the world's top-ranked player essentially says you need help, that's a serious red flag. Ostapenko's response. Even after facing widespread criticism from fellow players and the media, Ostapenko initially seemed to double down on her position. She posted on social media defending her actions and suggesting that Townsend was being disrespectful. She argued that just because Townsend was playing in her home country didn't mean she could behave and do whatever she wants. This response showed a complete lack of understanding of why people were upset with her. Instead of recognizing that her comments were inappropriate, she continued to blame Townsend for not following proper tennis etiquette. Eventually, Ostapenko did post what appeared to be an apology on Instagram, but many people felt it was too little, too late. In her apology, she blamed the incident partially on English not being her first language and claimed she was only talking about tennis etiquette, not making personal attacks. However, this explanation didn't satisfy many critics. They argued that you can't use language barriers as an excuse for insulting someone, and then expect forgiveness when people call you out. The damage had already been done, and the apology felt more like an attempt to control the negative publicity rather than genuine remorse. Taylor Townsend's classy response. Throughout this entire controversy, Taylor Townsend showed remarkable grace and professionalism. When reporters asked her directly about the incident and whether she felt there were racial undertones to Ostapenko's comments, Townsend handled the questions with intelligence and composure. Townsend said she didn't personally take the comments in a racial way, but she acknowledged the historical context of such language being used against black athletes. This response showed both personal strength and awareness of broader social issues. She managed to address the situation honestly, without escalating the drama or seeking revenge. The contrast between how the two players handled the aftermath was striking. While Ostapenko was posting defensive messages on social media and eventually couldn't even face reporters after losing in doubles, Townsend continued playing tennis at a high level. She even upset the fifth-ranked player in her next match, which felt like poetic justice to many fans. The broader impact. This incident has sparked important conversations about respect, race, and accountability in professional tennis. For too long, some talented players have gotten away with poor behavior because of their skills on the court. But there's a growing feeling that talent shouldn't excuse disrespectful conduct, especially when it crosses certain lines. Tennis has always prided itself on being a sport with high standards of sportsmanship. Players are expected to compete fiercely, but maintain dignity and respect for their opponents. There's an unwritten code about how to behave, both during matches and in defeat. Ostapenko's actions violated this code in a very public way. The timing of this incident was particularly unfortunate for tennis as a sport. Tennis is currently enjoying increased popularity with new stars emerging and growing global audiences. Having this type of ugly drama play out at the US Open, one of the sport's most prestigious tournaments, creates negative publicity that overshadows positive developments. Many people in the tennis community are now calling for more serious consequences than just the typical fine. They argue that when a player has a clear pattern of inappropriate behavior, stronger action is needed. Some have suggested suspensions or other penalties that would send a message that this conduct won't be tolerated. What this means for Ostapenko's career. Jelena Ostapenko is genuinely talented. She won the French Open in 2017 and has shown she can play incredible tennis when focused. However, her reputation for drama and confrontational behavior is starting to overshadow her accomplishments on the court. In professional sports, reputation matters almost as much as performance. Sponsors, tournament organizers, and fellow players all take notice when someone repeatedly causes problems. If Ostapenko continues down this path, it could seriously impact her career opportunities and earning potential. The unanimous negative reaction from the tennis community is particularly telling. Usually, when a player gets in trouble, there are some defenders who make excuses about competitive pressure or cultural differences. But in this case, even people who understand the intense pressure of professional tennis are saying she went too far. The importance of sportsmanship. This entire situation reinforces why sportsmanship is so crucial in tennis. The sport has built its reputation on traditions of respect and dignity that go back over a century. When players violate these principles, it doesn't just reflect badly on them personally. It damages tennis as a whole. Young players coming up through the ranks look to professionals as role models. When they see established players acting poorly and facing few consequences, it sends the wrong message about acceptable behavior. Tennis organizations have a responsibility to maintain standards that preserve the sport's integrity. The incident also highlights how small things can escalate into major problems. What started as a disagreement about apologizing for a lucky shot turned into an international controversy about race, respect, and professional conduct. This shows how important it is for athletes to think before they speak, especially in emotionally charged moments. Looking forward. The question now is whether tennis authorities will take meaningful action or simply issue another fine and hope the controversy dies down. Based on the strong reactions from players, fans, and media, this incident isn't likely to be forgotten quickly. For Ostapenko, this could be a turning point. She can either learn from this experience, genuinely change her behavior, and rebuild her reputation, or she can continue on the same path and risk becoming known more for controversies than tennis achievements. For the sport of tennis, this incident provides an opportunity to have honest conversations about standards of behavior and how to enforce them effectively. It's also a chance to address broader issues about diversity and inclusion in a sport that has traditionally lacked diversity at the highest levels. The tennis community's strong support for Taylor Townsend throughout this controversy shows that there is a commitment to treating all players with respect, regardless of their background. This gives hope that tennis can continue evolving in positive directions while maintaining its traditions of sportsmanship and dignity. Ultimately, this incident serves as a reminder that being a professional athlete involves more than just athletic ability. It requires emotional maturity, respect for opponents, and the ability to handle both victory and defeat with grace. These qualities are what separate true champions from players who are merely talented, and they're what make tennis the respected sport it has become.